On a rainy night, billionaire Elliot Grayson seeks solace in an unexpected place, a rundown diner where he meets Lucy Carter, a waitress with a kind heart and a brother fighting for his life. What begins as a simple conversation turns into a connection that neither of them expected. But can love bridge the gap between their worlds? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. Rain pounded against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Elliot Grayson's penthouse office. The night skyline of the city stretched out before him, a sea of lights that he could practically call his own. At 42, Elliot had built Grayson Enterprises from the ground up, transforming it into one of the most powerful real estate development companies on the East Coast. Mr. Grayson? His assistant Pamela stood at the door. The board members are waiting to surprise you. The birthday cake is ready. Elliot sighed, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. Tell them I'll be there in a minute. Pamela hesitated. Sir, this is the third year in a row you've made them wait. They're really trying to celebrate you. I know, he said, swirling the whiskey in his glass. Just one more minute. When she left, Elliot turned back to the window. Another birthday surrounded by people who wanted something from him. Board members who praised him to his face while plotting behind his back. Women who saw him as a bank account rather than a man. His phone buzzed with birthday messages, business associates, ex-girlfriends, people he barely knew. Not one of them knew the real Elliot Grayson. Not one of them cared to. With a deep breath, he downed his drink and headed to the conference room, plastering on the smile that had graced countless magazine covers. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. The chorus of voices surrounded Elliot as he pretended to be surprised by the elaborate cake, the expensive champagne, the overly enthusiastic birthday wishes. Blow out the candles, Elliot, called out Marcus Jenkins, his chief financial officer. Make a wish. A wish. What would he wish for? More money? He had enough to last 10 lifetimes. Success? His company dominated the market. Power? He could make one phone call and change the skyline of the city. He blew out the candles without making a wish. Speech! Speech! Someone called out. Elliot raised his champagne glass. Thank you all for this surprise. Another year older, another billion richer. They laughed on cue. But seriously, I appreciate your dedication to Grayson Enterprises. Without you, I'd just be a guy with too much money and too many buildings. More laughter, more toasts, more meaningless conversation. Elliot went through the motions, shaking hands, accepting congratulations, discussing the latest acquisition plans. 2 hours later, he escaped to his private elevator. Sir, where should I tell them you're going? Pamela asked, concern in her eyes. Home, I'm tired. But the night is still young. Everyone expects you to join them at Club Azure for the after-party. Elliot sighed. Tell them I'm sorry. Make up an excuse. Emergency call, early meeting tomorrow, whatever sounds believable. The elevator doors closed on Pamela's worried face, and Elliot leaned against the wall, loosening his tie. He couldn't face another minute of fake smiles and shallow conversations. But as the elevator reached the lobby, he knew he couldn't face his empty penthouse either. On impulse, he told his driver to take the night off. He climbed behind the wheel of his Aston Martin and drove with no destination in mind, just needing to escape. The Bluebird Diner sat on the corner of a rundown neighborhood, its neon sign flickering weakly in the rain. It wasn't the kind of place Elliot Grayson would normally set foot in, but tonight, anonymity seemed like the perfect birthday gift. The bell above the door jingled as he entered. Only a few tables were occupied, an elderly couple sharing a piece of pie, a group of college students with laptops open, and a man in a work uniform nursing a cup of coffee. Elliot slid into a booth by the window, watching the rain streak. Down the glass, for the first time all day he felt like he could breathe. Coffee? He looked up to see a young woman with tired eyes and a warm smile. Her name tag read, Lucy, please, he said. Lucy poured him a cup, the steam rising between them. Menu? What do you recommend? She tilted her head, assessing him. You don't look like a regular diner kind of guy. Is it that obvious? The $5,000 watch and custom suit kind of give it away. There was no judgment in her voice, just amusement. "But if you're slumming it tonight, try the apple pie. It's homemade." "Apple pie it is, then." As she walked away, Elliot found himself watching her. She wasn't conventionally beautiful, but there was something about her, a genuine quality that drew his attention. She moved between tables with easy grace, chatting with customers, laughing at their jokes, remembering their usual orders. When she brought his pie, he asked, "Do you always work this late?" "Double shift today," she said, wiping her hands on her apron. "My brother's medical bills don't pay themselves." "I'm sorry to hear that. Is he very sick?" Something shifted in her expression, surprised that he'd actually asked, perhaps. "Leukemia." "He's responding well to treatment, but—" She shrugged. "Insurance only covers so much. That must be difficult." "Life is difficult for most people," she said matter-of-factly, "but we get by. Enjoy your pie." As she walked away, Elliot felt something stir inside him. This woman, this Lucy, lived in a world so different from his own. Yet she faced her challenges with dignity and strength, while he sat in his ivory tower feeling sorry for himself. He ate his pie slowly, watching Lucy work. She treated everyone with the same respectful attention, the elderly couple, the rowdy students, even the drunk man who stumbled in and ordered coffee to sober up. By the time he finished, the diner had emptied out. Lucy came to clear his plate. "Verdict on the pie?" "Best I've had," he said honestly. High praise from a man who probably eats at five-star restaurants. Those places charge $30 for a dessert half this size and twice as pretentious. She laughed, and the sound was like music, natural, unguarded. "Can I get you anything else?" An idea formed in Elliot's mind. Absurd, impulsive, completely unlike him. Yet he couldn't shake it. "This might sound strange," he said, "but it's my birthday and I'd rather not spend it alone." Lucy raised an eyebrow. "Are you hitting on me?" "Because I should warn you, I've heard every pickup line in the book." "No, nothing like that," he said quickly. I'd like some company, real company, someone who doesn't want anything from—" "Tamik?" He took out his wallet. "I'll pay you for your time to talk." Her expression hardened. "I'm a waitress, not an escort." "That came out wrong," Elliot said, feeling his cheeks flush. "I meant, look, you mentioned your brother's medical bills. I can help with that. All you have to do is sit and talk with me for a few hours. No strings attached." Lucy stared at him, suspicion and curiosity battling in her eyes. "Why would you do that?" "Because I'm tired of people who only see dollar signs when they look at me. Because it's my birthday, and I don't want to celebrate with people who don't care about me. Because you're the first person today who's looked me in the eye and seen a human being." She glanced at the clock. "My shift ends in 20 minutes. I'll wait." Lucy Carter counted the tips from her apron pocket as she changed. Out of her uniform in the tiny back room of the diner, $127. Not bad for a Tuesday night, but still not enough to make a dent in Tommy's medical bills. And now this strange offer from the man in the expensive. Third part of her knew she should say no. Men with money always wanted something. But there had been something in his eyes, a loneliness she recognized all too well. Plus, she'd seen his watch. If he could afford that, he could afford to help Tommy. Pride was a luxury she couldn't afford, right now. When she emerged from the back room, he was still there, staring out the window at the rain. "I need to be clear about something," she said, sitting across from him. "I'll talk with you, that's it." "That's all I'm asking for," he said. "I'm Elliot, by the way. Elliot Grayson." The name sounded vaguely familiar, but Lucy couldn't place. "Ted? Lucy Carter. So, Lucy Carter, where would you like to go? There must be some bars or restaurants still open." She shook her head. "If we're doing this, I'd rather go somewhere quiet. Somewhere we can actually talk without shouting over music. My car is outside. We could drive to the pier. There's a covered area where we could sit and watch the water." "The pier works," she agreed, pulling on her worn rain jacket. The rain had slowed to a gentle patter by the time they reached the pier. The wooden boards creaked under their feet as they walked to the covered seating area at the end. "So," Lucy said, sitting on a bench facing the dark water, "how much is my conversation worth to you?" Elliot leaned against the railing. $10,000? Lucy's eyes widened. "You're joking." "I'm not." Nobody pays $10,000 just to talk. I do. She studied him carefully. Why? Because I can. Because you need it. Because maybe for once in my life, I want to have a conversation that isn't about business deals or social climbing or what someone can get from me. Lucy sat back, processing his words. You must be very rich. I am. And very lonely. He didn't answer, but his silence was confirmation enough. So what do you want to talk about, Mr. Moneybags? For the first time that night, Elliot laughed. A genuine laugh. That surprised even him. Anything? Everything. Tell me about your brother. Tommy? He's 17, smart as a whip. Was on track for a scholarship before he got sick. Her voice softened. He loves science. Wants to be a doctor someday. Ironic, right? Now he spends most of his time being treated by them. And your parents? Dad left when Tommy was born. Mom died 2 years ago, car accident. She shrugged as if to say, that's life. So it's just me and Tommy now. I've been his legal guardian since I was 25. That's a lot of responsibility for someone so young. What choice did I have? He's my brother. She looked out at the water. What about you? Family? Only child. Parents died a decade ago. No wife, no kids. Just $1 billion company to keep you warm at night. Elliot smiled wryly. Something like that. Is it worth it? All the money? The success? I used to think so. The conversation flowed more easily than either of them expected. Lucy told him about her dreams of going to college, put on hold when Tommy got sick. Elliot shared stories of his early days, struggling to get his first development project off the ground. You didn't always have money, she realized. I grew up middle class, comfortable but not wealthy. I built Grayson Enterprises from nothing. So you worked for what you have. That's something at least. Does that make me more acceptable in your eyes? Lucy smiled. It makes you more human. Hours passed as they talked about books they'd read, places they'd like to visit, the best pizza in the city. They disagreed vehemently on this, and a dozen other topics that had nothing to do with business or illness or money. For the first time in years, Elliot felt like himself. Not Elliot Grayson, CEO, but just Elliot, a man having a conversation with a woman who challenged and intrigued him. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, Lucy checked her watch. I should go. Tommy will be wondering where I am. Of course. Elliot reached for his wallet, but Lucy put up a hand. Not here. It feels too transactional. I'll drive you home. The ride to Lucy's apartment was quiet, both of them tired but somehow energized by their night together. When he pulled up outside her building, a modest apartment complex in need of repair, Elliot reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. $10,000 as promised. Lucy stared at the envelope, reality crashing back. This had been a business arrangement, nothing more. Thank you, she said, taking it with slightly trembling hands. This will help Tommy more than you know. Lucy, Elliot said before she could open the car door, I'd like to see you again. She hesitated. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Why not? Because this was a one-time deal. Because you live in a world I know nothing about. Because men like you don't spend time with women like me unless they want something. What if what I want is just your company? Then you wouldn't need to pay for it. She opened the door. Goodbye. Elliot, happy birthday. He watched her walk into the building, the envelope clutched tightly in her hand. He should drive away. Forget this strange night. Go back to his life. Instead, he found himself wondering when Lucy's next shift at the diner would be. Lucy counted the money twice, still unable to believe it. $10,000, enough to cover Tommy's next round of treatments with some left over. Where were you all night? Tommy asked from the doorway of their small living room, his thin frame leaning against the wall. Despite the chemo that had taken his hair, his eyes were bright and curious. Working late, she lied, hiding the envelope. How are you feeling? Better. Today. He nodded at her hand. What's that? Lucy sighed. She'd never been able to lie to her brother. It's money, for your treatment. That's way more than your tips. Where did it come from, Luce? I met someone, a man. He had paid me to talk with him. Tommy's eyes widened. Talk, just talk. Yes, Tommy, just talk. He was lonely. It was his birthday. And he gave you all that money just to listen to him. Apparently I'm a very good listener, she said with a small smile. Tommy sat beside her on the couch. Was he nice? Lucy thought about Elliot, his gentle manners, his genuine interest in her life, the way he'd laughed at her jokes. Yes, she admitted. He was nice. Are you going to see him again? No, it was a one-time thing. But as she said it, Lucy found herself hoping she was wrong. 3 days had passed since that rainy night at the pier, and Elliot couldn't get Lucy Carter out of his mind. Her honest eyes, her quick wit, the way she spoke about her brother with such fierce love, it all haunted him as he sat through endless meetings and conference calls. Mr. Grayson, did you hear the question? Elliot blinked, focusing on the boardroom full of executives staring at him expectantly. Marcus Jenkins, his CFO, looked particularly concerned. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Elliot asked, straightening in his chair. The Henderson deal, Marcus said slowly. Do we proceed with the acquisition or wait until next quarter? Elliot glanced down at the documents in front of him. The Henderson property was a prime downtown location, perfect for his next luxury hotel. A year's worth of negotiations had led to this moment. Proceed, he said firmly, but I want to review the final terms personally before anything is signed. The meeting continued, but Elliot's mind kept drifting back to the Bluebird Diner. To Lucy, when the executives finally filed out, Marcus lingered behind. Is everything all right, Elliot? You seem distracted lately. I'm fine. Just thinking about some new directions for the company. Marcus raised an eyebrow. New directions? Care to elaborate? Not yet. Elliot gathered his papers. I need to check something. Cancel my afternoon appointments. Before Marcus could protest, Elliot was out the door and heading for the elevator. The Bluebird Diner looked different in daylight, smaller, shabbier, but somehow more inviting than any of the five-star restaurants Elliot frequented. He parked his car across the street and watched the entrance for a few minutes, feeling strangely nervous. What was he doing here? What would he even say to her? Just as he was about to start the car and drive away, he saw her. Lucy was emerging from the diner, her work uniform replaced by jeans and a simple blue sweater. She was checking her phone as she walked, a worried frown on her face. Without thinking, Elliot got out of his car and crossed the street. Lucy. She looked up, surprise flashing across her face. Elliot, what are you doing here? I wanted to see. You again? How did you know I'd be here? I didn't, I took a chance, he gestured to the diner. I was going to go in and ask when your next shift was. Lucy's phone buzzed in her hand, and she glanced down at it anxiously. Is everything okay? Elliot asked. It's Tommy. The hospital called. His doctor wants to see me. She bit her lip. I need to go. Let me drive you. That's not necessary, she started to say, but Elliot could see the worry in her eyes. Please, it'll be faster than the bus. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. Okay, thank you. The hospital waiting room was crowded with patients and their families. Lucy sat tensely beside Elliot, her hands clasped so tightly. Her knuckles were white. What if they found something, she whispered. What if the treatment isn't working? Elliot reached over and covered her hands with his. Don't jump to conclusions. It could be good news. In my experience, doctors don't call you in for good news, they just tell you over the phone. A nurse appeared at the door. Ms. Carter, Dr. Phillips can see you now. Lucy stood, then turned to Elliot. You don't have to. Wait, this could take a while. I'll be right here, he promised. As she disappeared down the hallway, Elliot looked around the waiting room. Children with bald heads playing with worn toys. Parents with exhausted eyes flipping through outdated magazines. Elderly patients sitting alone, staring into space. This was a world he rarely encountered, the world of ordinary people facing extraordinary challenges, a world where his money and influence meant nothing against the indiscriminate cruelty of disease. An hour passed before Lucy returned, her face unreadable. What did the doctor say? Elliot asked, rising to meet her. They found a bone marrow donor, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. A perfect match. Tommy can have the transplant next month. That's wonderful news. It is, but she sank into a chair. The procedure isn't fully covered by insurance. Even with the money you gave me, we're still short. How much? Lucy looked at him, conflict in her eyes. $50,000. I'll pay for it. No, Elliot. I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking, I'm offering. She shook her head. Why would you do that? You barely know us. Because I can. Because it matters to you. He hesitated, then added softly, because that night we spent talking was the most real connection I've had with anyone in years. Lucy studied his face, searching for hidden motives. What do you want in return? Nothing. Nobody gives something for nothing. I do. He took her hand. Lucy, let me help Tommy. No strings attached. Tears filled her eyes. I don't know what to say. Say yes, for Tommy's sake. After a long moment, she nodded. Yes, thank you. Can I meet him? Elliot asked. Lucy wiped away a tear. He's upstairs, room 412. Yeah, Tommy Carter had his sister's eyes, intelligent, perceptive, with a hint of stubbornness. Despite the IV in his arm and the hospital gown that seemed too big for his thin frame, he had an air of resilience that impressed Elliot immediately. So you're the rich guy who paid my sister to talk to you, Tommy said bluntly when Lucy introduced them. Tommy, Lucy exclaimed, mortified. Elliot laughed. Yes, I am, and you must be the science genius I've heard so much about. Tommy sat up straighter. Lucy told you about me. She did. She said you want to be a doctor someday. That's the plan if I can get through this. He gestured around the hospital room. Tommy, Elliot has offered to help with the bone marrow transplant, Lucy said carefully. The boy's eyes widened. Seriously? Just like that? Just like that, Elliot confirmed. Why? Tommy asked, with the direct curiosity of youth. Elliot considered his answer. Because your sister is special, and because everyone deserves a fighting chance. Tommy looked between his sister and Elliot, a knowing smile spreading across his face. I like him, Luce. Lucy blushed. Stop it. What? I'm just saying he seems like a good guy for a billionaire. I'm not a billionaire, Elliot corrected him. Not quite, anyway. Tommy's eyes lit up. But you're close? That is so cool. Do you have a mansion, a private jet? What's the most expensive thing you own? Tommy, stop interrogating him, Lucy said, but she was smiling now. It's fine, Elliot assured her. Yes, I have a penthouse. No, private jet yet. And the most expensive thing I own is probably my company. What kind of company? Real estate development. We build hotels, office buildings, shopping centers. Tommy nodded appreciatively. So you're basically changing the shape of the city. I suppose I am, in a way. Have you ever built a hospital? The question caught Elliot off guard. No, I haven't. You should. Not like this one. A better one. With rooms that don't feel so depressing and more stuff for kids to do. Lucy put a hand on her brother's shoulder. Tommy, Mr. Grayson doesn't need business advice from a teenager. Actually, Elliot said slowly, that's not a bad idea. A nurse entered the room. Visiting hours are over in 5 minutes. Lucy stood. We should go. You need to rest, Tommy. Will you come back? Tommy asked Elliot if that's okay with you and your sister. It's more than okay with me, the boy said with another pointed look at Lucy. Outside Tommy's room, Lucy turned to Elliot. You don't have to come back just because he asked. I know you're busy. I want to come back. Tommy's a great kid. He is. Pride and worry mingled in her voice. Listen, about the money for his treatment. It's taken care of. I'll have my assistant make the arrangements with the hospital tomorrow. Lucy looked down. I don't know how to thank you. Have dinner. With me, Elliot said impulsively. She looked up, surprised. What? Have dinner with me. Not as a transaction, just dinner. Elliot, one dinner. That's all I'm asking. After a moment, she nodded. One dinner. Bais to Marcus, the restaurant Elliot chose, was elegant, but not ostentatious. A small Italian place with warm lighting and discreet service. He'd specifically picked it because it wasn't the kind of trendy hotspot where he might be recognized. Lucy arrived wearing a simple black dress that Elliot suspected she had bought specially for the occasion. Her hair was down, framing her face in soft waves. "You look beautiful," he said, rising to greet her. "Thank you." She looked around nervously. "This place is lovely." They were shown to a quiet corner table where a bottle of wine was already waiting. "I hope you like Italian food," Elliot said as they sat down. "I do, though I should warn you, my experience with Italian food is mostly pizza and spaghetti from the place down the street from our apartment." Elliot smiled. "Well, the chef here makes a risotto that will change your life." As they settled into conversation, Elliot found himself relaxing in a way he rarely did on dates. There was no need to impress Lucy. She already knew who he was and seemed utterly uninterested in his wealth or status. "So, Grayson Enterprises," she said, sipping her wine. "I looked you up after we met. You're kind of a big deal." "Does that intimidate you? Should it?" "No, but most people act differently once they know." Lucy shrugged. "I've cleaned up after sick children and dealt with drunk customers at 2 a.m. It takes more than a fancy title to intimidate me." Their food arrived. Risotto for Lucy, sea bass for Elliot. "Oh my God," Lucy said after her first bite. "You weren't kidding about this risotto." Elliot laughed. "Told you." "So tell me something real about yourself," Lucy said. "Something that's not in the business magazines." Elliot considered the question. "I can't swim." "Really? Mr. Successful at everything can't swim?" "Never learned. I nearly drowned when I was a kid, and I've avoided the water ever since." "That's surprisingly human of you." "Did you think I wasn't human? I thought you were a certain type of man, the kind who's always in control, who never shows weakness or vulnerability. And now," Lucy studied him, "now I think there's more to you than I first assumed." The evening passed quickly, their conversation flowing as easily as it had that night at the pier. Elliot couldn't remember the last time he'd enjoyed someone's company so much. The simple pleasure of talking to someone who listened, who challenged him, who made him laugh. After dinner, they walked along the waterfront, the city lights reflecting in the dark water. "Thank you for tonight," Lucy said. "It was lovely. We should do it again." She hesitated. "Elliot, I need to be honest with you. I'm grateful for what you're doing for Tommy. More grateful than I can say. But I'm not sure getting involved with you is a good idea." "Why not?" "Because our worlds are too different. Because anything between us would be complicated by the fact that you're helping my brother. It doesn't have to be complicated. It already is." She stopped walking and turned to face him. "What happens when you get bored of the novelty of dating? A waitress? When your friends and business associates start asking questions about the woman you're seeing? I don't care what they think." "You say that now, but Lucy," Elliot took her hands in his, "I've spent my life surrounded by people who want something from me. My money, my influence, my connections. With you, I can just be myself. You know how rare that is." Before she could respond, his phone buzzed insistently in his pocket. With an apologetic look, he checked it. 3 missed calls from Marcus. "I'm sorry. I need to take this. It might be important." He stepped away, dialing Marcus back. "Elliot, where are you?" Marcus demanded. "The Henderson family is having second thoughts about the deal. They're meeting with Blackwood Development tomorrow morning." Elliot frowned. "Blackwood? I thought we had an exclusive negotiation period." "Apparently not. You need to call Robert Henderson tonight. Personally. I'm in the middle of something, Marcus. This deal is worth $300 million. Whatever you're doing can wait." Elliot looked back at Lucy, who was standing by the railing, looking out at the water. He thought about the hospital bills he'd promised to pay, the hope in Tommy's eyes, the warmth he felt when Lucy smiled at him. "Actually, Marcus, it can't. I'll call Henderson first thing in the morning." "Elliot, this isn't like you. What's going on?" "I'm reassessing my priorities. The deal will still be there tomorrow." He hung up before Marcus could protest further and returned to Lucy's side. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Just work." "Nothing that can't wait." He offered his arm. "Shall we continue our walk?" Later that night, Elliot dropped Lucy off at her apartment building. This time, he walked her to the door. "I had a wonderful time tonight," he said. "So, did I? Would it be all right if I called you tomorrow? Maybe we could visit Tommy together." Lucy smiled. "I'd like that." Before she could turn to go inside, Elliot leaned down and kissed her softly. For a moment she stiffened in surprise, but then she kissed him back, a gentle, hesitant kiss that held both promise and uncertainty. When they broke apart, Lucy's cheeks were flushed. "Good night, Elliot." "Good night, Lucy." He waited until she was safely inside before returning to his car. As he drove home through the quiet streets, Elliot felt something he hadn't experienced in years, a sense of possibility, of hope. But in the shadows across from Lucy's building, a figure watched. With interest, Marcus Jenkins lowered his binoculars, a calculating expression on his face. So this was why Elliot had been so distracted lately. A woman. A nobody, from the looks of her building. He took out his phone and made a call. "It's me. I found something interesting about our friend Grayson, something we might be able to use." Teresined the next morning, Lucy woke to find a delivery of fresh flowers outside her door, lilies her favorite. The card simply read, "Thank you for a perfect evening, E." As she arranged them in a vase, actually a repurposed glass, her phone rang. It was the hospital. "Ms. Carter, this is billing services. I'm calling to inform you that all charges for Thomas Carter's upcoming procedure have been paid in full." Lucy sat down, overwhelmed. "All of them. The full 50,000? Actually, Ms. Carter, the payment was significantly more than that. The donor has established a complete care fund for your brother, covering all treatments, medications, and follow-up care for the next 2 years. Tears sprang to Lucy's eyes. Who made this donation? The donor wishes to remain anonymous. Is there anything else I can help you with today? No, thank you. That's wonderful news. After hanging up, Lucy sat staring at the flowers. Elliot had gone far beyond what he'd promised. 2 years of care meant hundreds of thousands of dollars, an amount she couldn't even comprehend. Part of her felt uneasy accepting such generosity. But a larger part felt overwhelming gratitude, and something else she wasn't ready to name yet. Her phone rang again. This time it was Elliot. "Good morning," he said, his voice warm. "Did you get the flowers? They're beautiful. And I just got a call from the hospital." "Oh, Elliot, you didn't just pay for the transplant. You set up a fund for 2 years of care. Tommy deserves the best treatment available. I didn't want you worrying about how to pay for it." "It's too much," she said, her voice cracking. "I can't possibly accept—" "Yes, you can. You would do the same for someone if you had the means. But I'll never be able to repay you. I don't want to be repaid, Lucy. I want to help." She wiped away a tear. "Why me? Why us?" There was a pause before Elliot answered. "Because you saw me as a person, not a bank account. Because Tommy reminds me of what's really important in life. Because for the first time in years, I feel like I'm using my money for something that matters." Lucy didn't know what to say. "Thank you" seemed woefully inadequate. "I was thinking of visiting Tommy this afternoon," Elliot continued. "Would that be okay?" "He'd love that. He hasn't stopped talking about you." "I'll pick you up at 2. "I'll be ready." As Lucy hung up, she caught her reflection in the mirror, smiling, tear-stained, hopeful. Was she falling for Elliot Grayson? It seemed impossible. And yet, she touched the flowers gently. Maybe impossible things happened every day. Across town in the sleek offices of Grayson Enterprises, Marcus Jenkins was digging deeper into the life of Lucy Carter. A few calls to his contacts had yielded interesting information: her parents' deaths, her brother's illness, her struggle to make ends meet. "Perfect," he murmured, adding notes to his file. "Just perfect." His secretary buzzed him. "Mr. Jenkins, Ms. Rothwell is here to see you. Send her in." A moment later, Victoria Rothwell swept into the office, tall, elegant, with the confident bearing of old money. As the daughter of Elliot's biggest investor, she had spent the past year making it clear she was interested in more than just business relations with Elliot. "This better be important, Marcus," she said, settling into a chair. "I had to cancel my spa appointment. It concerns Elliot. He's been distracted lately by a woman." Victoria's perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose. "A woman? Who?" Marcus handed her the file. "A waitress. Her name is Lucy Carter." Victoria skimmed the information, her expression darkening. "A waitress? You can't be serious." I saw them together last night. He seems quite taken with her. How quaint. Victoria closed the file with a snap. And you're telling me this because I thought you might want to know what you're up against, before things get too serious. Victoria laughed. She's not competition, Marcus. She's an amusement, a novelty that will wear off as soon as Elliot remembers who he really is. I hope you're right. But in the meantime, the Henderson deal is in jeopardy because Elliot is too busy playing Prince Charming to a Cinderella with medical bills. Medical bills? Her brother has leukemia. Elliot's paying for his treatment. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Is that so? Well, that is interesting. She stood, smoothing her designer dress. Don't worry about Elliot's little charity case, Marcus. I'll handle it. What are you planning to do? Victoria smiled coldly. I'm going to remind Miss Carter exactly where she belongs, and it isn't with Elliot Grayson. The following weeks brought a new rhythm to Lucy's life. Mornings at the diner, afternoons with Tommy at the hospital, and evenings with Elliot whenever his schedule allowed. He had become a constant presence, bringing books for Tommy, surprising Lucy with small thoughtful gifts, and charming the hospital staff with his genuine interest in Tommy's care. Dr. Phillips had scheduled Tommy's bone marrow transplant for the following week, and the boy's excitement was tempered only by the intense pre-procedure treatments he had to endure. How are you feeling today, champ? Elliot asked, entering Tommy's hospital room with a new science magazine tucked under his arm. Tommy looked up from his bed, his face pale but his eyes bright. Like I got hit by a truck, but Dr. Phillips says that means the chemo is working. Lucy, who had been adjusting Tommy's pillows, gave Elliot a tired smile. She had been sleeping at the hospital for the past 3 nights, refusing to leave her brother's side during this critical phase. You look exhausted, Elliot said softly to her. I'm fine, she insisted. You're not. He turned to Tommy. Don't you think your sister needs a break? Tommy nodded vigorously. She won't listen to me. She barely sleeps and she lives on vending machine food. Elliot took Lucy's hand. Come on. Just a few hours. We'll get some real food. Maybe take a walk in the park. Tommy will call if he needs anything. Definitely, Tommy agreed. Besides, Nurse Jen is bringing my dinner soon, and then we're having a chess tournament with some of the other kids. You'd just be bored. Lucy hesitated, torn between her duty to her brother and her own exhaustion. Are you sure you'll be okay? Sure, go have fun, kiss your boyfriend. Tommy, Lucy blushed furiously. Elliot laughed. I like how this kid thinks. After extracting a promise from Tommy to call if anything changed, Lucy allowed Elliot to lead her out of the hospital. You really do need a break, he said as they walked to his car. You can't help Tommy if you run yourself into the ground. I know, it's just hard to leave him. He's in good hands and it's just for a few hours. As they drove through the city, Lucy leaned back in her seat, feeling the tension of the past days begin to ease. Elliot had become her rock during this difficult time, steady, supportive, always there when she needed him. I thought we could. Go to my place, Elliot said. My chef can prepare dinner and you can take a hot bath, maybe even a nap if you want. Lucy hesitated. She had never been to Elliot's penthouse. Somehow it felt like crossing a line, stepping fully into his world. We could go somewhere else if you prefer, he added, sensing her reluctance. No, that sounds lovely. I'm just a little nervous about seeing where you live. It's just an apartment, Lucy. A penthouse apartment that probably costs more than I'll earn in my lifetime. Elliot took her hand. It's just a place where I sleep and work. It's not who I am. Lucy's first thought upon entering Elliot's penthouse was that it didn't feel like a home. It was beautiful, certainly, with its sleek furnishings, floor-to-ceiling windows and spectacular city views, but it lacked warmth, personality, the small touches that made a space lived in. It's so clean, she said, looking around the vast living room. Elliot laughed. I have a housekeeper, and I'm not home much. No family photos. No personal mementos. In my office, I don't entertain here often. Lucy walked to the windows, taking in the panoramic view of the city. From this height, everything looked perfect. The problems and struggles of ordinary people invisible from the clouds. This is how you see the world, isn't it? She said softly. From a distance above it all. Elliot came to stand beside her. It was. Until I met you. He showed her around the apartment, the state-of-the-art kitchen where his chef was already preparing their dinner, the home gym, the media room, and finally, his office. Here, at last, Lucy saw glimpses of the real Elliot. Photos of his parents on his desk, a framed article about his first successful development project, books on architecture and design, well-worn and obviously read. "This room feels different," she said. "More like you. This is where I spend most of my time when I'm home." A photo caught Lucy's eye, a younger Elliot with an older man in front of a small house. "Is that your father?" Elliot nodded. "That's the house I grew up in. My dad worked in construction. He could build anything with his hands." Pride and sadness mingled in his voice. "He died before I made my first million. I wish he could have seen what I built." Lucy touched his arm gently. "He would have been proud of you. For the money I've made, the buildings I've constructed, for the man you've become. The one who visits a sick kid every day and makes sure his sister eats something besides vending machine food." Elliot smiled, then leaned down to kiss her softly. "Thank you for seeing that part of me." After a dinner that Lucy declared was criminally delicious, Elliot showed her to the guest bathroom, where a hot bath was waiting, complete with scented oils and soft towels. "Take your time," he said. "Relax, I'll be in my office if you need anything." The bath was pure luxury, the kind of indulgence Lucy never had time or money for. As she soaked in the warm water, she thought about how quickly Elliot had become essential to her life. It scared her how much she had come to depend on him, not just for financial support, but for emotional strength. What would happen when Tommy recovered? When Elliot inevitably tired of playing the hero to a waitress and her sick brother? The thought made her stomach tighten with anxiety. After her bath, dressed in a robe Elliot had provided, Lucy found him in his office, typing on his laptop. "Feel better?" he asked, looking up with a smile. "Much. Thank you for this." "You're welcome. To stay the night. The guest room is made up and I can have some clothes sent over." Lucy shook her head. "I should get back to Tommy soon, but I wouldn't mind sitting here with you for a while." Elliot closed his laptop and moved to the couch, patting the space beside him. Lucy sat down, tucking her feet under her. For a few minutes they sat in comfortable silence. "Can I ask you something?" Lucy said finally. "Anything." "What are we doing, Elliot? What is this between us?" He took her hand, his expression serious. "I care about you, Lucy, more than I expected to, more than I've cared about anyone in a long time. But we're from different worlds. This can't last." "Why not?" "Because eventually the novelty will wear off. You'll remember that you could be with someone from your own social circle, someone who understands your world, who fits into your life." "Is that what you think this is? Novelty, isn't it? The billionaire and the waitress. It's like something from a movie. But real life isn't a movie, Elliot." He cupped her face gently. "Do you care about me, Lucy? Not my money, not what I can do for Tommy, me. You know I do. Then why can't that be enough? Why can't we just see where this goes?" Lucy leaned into his touch, wanting desperately to believe it could be that simple. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Scared of depending on you. Scared of what happens when you decide this was all a mistake." "I won't. You can't promise that." "No, I can't, but I can promise to be honest with you always." He pulled her closer. "What are you really afraid of, Lucy?" She looked into his eyes, finding the courage to voice her deepest fear. "I'm afraid of falling in love with you, because when this ends, it will break me." Elliot's expression softened. "What if it doesn't end?" Before she could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at it with annoyance, then concern crossed his face. "It's the hospital." Lucy sat up straight, suddenly alert. "Answer it." Elliot put the call on speaker. "Hello? Mr. Grayson, this is Nurse Jen from Pediatric Oncology. I'm calling about Tommy Carter." "What's happened?" Lucy asked, her voice tight with fear. "Tommy's developed a fever. Dr. Phillips wants to run some tests. He asked me to call you both." "Is it serious?" Elliot asked. "Dr. Phillips says it could be a normal reaction to the pre-transplant regimen, but he wants to be cautious. Tommy's asking for you, Miss Carter." "We'll be right there," Lucy said, already standing. The hospital corridor seemed endless as Lucy and Elliot hurried toward Tommy's room. Dr. Phillips met them outside the door. "What's happening?" Lucy demanded. "Tommy's running. A temperature of 103. We've started him on broad-spectrum antibiotics, but we need to identify the infection quickly." "Infection?" Lucy's voice rose. "Is this common before a transplant?" "It's not uncommon. His immune system is compromised from the treatments. Even a minor infection can become serious." "But you can treat it?" Elliot asked. "We're doing everything we can. We've taken cultures and we're waiting for results." Dr. Phillips put a hand on Lucy's shoulder. "Try not to worry too much. Tommy is young and has been responding well to treatment. This is a setback, but we've dealt with worse." Inside the room, Tommy looked small and fragile against the white hospital sheets. His face was flushed with fever, his breathing shallow. "Hey, Luce," he said weakly. "Sorry to mess up your date." Lucy rushed to his side, taking his hand. "Don't be silly. How are you feeling?" "Like I'm burning up. But the nurse gave me something cool to drink and they're giving me medicine through my IV." Elliot stood on the other side of the bed. "You gave us a scare, buddy." "Sorry." Tommy's eyes were glassy with fever. "Did you guys have a nice time before they called you?" "We did," Lucy said, smoothing his forehead. "Elliot's place is amazing. The bathtub alone is bigger than our bathroom." Tommy managed to smile. "Told you he was a good guy." Elliot and Lucy exchanged a glance over Tommy's head, a look full of unspoken emotions and interrupted confessions. "I'm going to talk to Dr. Phillips again," Elliot said. "See if there's anything else we can do." Lucy nodded gratefully, her attention focused on her brother. Out in the hallway, Elliot found Dr. Phillips reviewing Tommy's chart. "I want to be absolutely clear," Elliot said. "Money is no object here. Whatever Tommy needs, specialists, experimental treatments, anything. Make it happen. Mr. Grayson, I assure you, Tommy is already receiving the best care possible. Is there anyone else we should consult? A specialist in infectious diseases, perhaps?" Dr. Phillips considered this. "There's Dr. Eleanor Chen at Memorial. She's the leading expert in infections in immunocompromised patients. But she rarely takes on new cases, and there's usually a waiting list. Call her, tell her I'm personally requesting her involvement." Elliot handed the doctor his business card. "My private number is on the back. I want updates every hour, and I want Dr. Chen here as soon as possible." As Dr. Phillips walked away, Elliot took out his phone and made a call. "Marcus, I need a favor. There's a Dr. Eleanor Chen at Memorial Hospital. I need her to take on a case immediately. Use whatever connections we have. Offer a donation to her research, whatever it takes." He paused. "Yes, it's important. More important than any deal we've ever made." By morning, Tommy's condition had stabilized, but his fever hadn't broken. Lucy had dozed off in the chair beside his bed, her hand still holding his. Elliot, who had spent the night making calls and arranging for Dr. Chen's involvement, gently woke her. "Lucy, Dr. Chen is here." Lucy blinked awake, disoriented. "Who?" "The specialist I told you about. She's going to consult on Tommy's case." Dr. Eleanor Chen was a small, precise woman with an air of quiet authority. She reviewed Tommy's chart, examined him thoroughly, and consulted with Dr. Phillips. After what seemed like an eternity to Lucy, the two doctors approached. "Ms. Carter," Dr. Chen began, "your brother has a serious but treatable infection. We're changing his antibiotic regimen and adding some additional medications. I believe we can get this under control within 48 hours. "And the transplant?" Lucy asked. "We'll need to delay it until the infection is completely cleared and Tommy has recovered his strength. But I see no reason why we can't proceed once he's stable." Relief flooded through Lucy. Thank you so much." "You should thank Mr. Grayson," Dr. Chen said with a small smile. "He can be very persuasive when he wants something." After the doctors left, Lucy turned to Elliot. "What did you do?" "I just made a few calls." "Elliot," he shrugged. "Grayson Enterprises is making a donation to Dr. Chen's research fund, and I may have mentioned that my company is considering building a new pediatric medical center and would value her input." "You're building a hospital?" "I'm considering it," he said with a glint in his eye. "A certain wise teenager suggested it might be a good use of my resources." Lucy felt tears well up. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. Just let me be here for you. For both of you. Over the next 2 days, Tommy's condition improved steadily under Dr. Chen's care. His fever broke, his infection responded to the new antibiotics, and his spirits returned. By the 3rd day, he was sitting up in bed, arguing with Lucy about whether he could have pizza, smuggled into the hospital. Dr. Phillips said I need to build up my strength, Tommy insisted. Pizza has protein and carbs and dairy. It's basically medicine. Nice try, Lucy laughed. But you're getting hospital food until Dr. Phillips says otherwise. Elliot, who had been watching this exchange with amusement, checked his watch. I need to step out for a meeting, but I'll be back this evening. Can I bring you anything, Tommy? Besides pizza, you mean? Tommy grinned. Maybe that new video game we were talking about. Consider it done. Elliot kissed Lucy quickly before leaving. As the door closed behind him, Tommy gave his sister a knowing look. You love him, he stated matter-of-factly. Lucy felt her cheeks flush. Tommy, don't try to deny it. I see how you look at him. It's complicated. Only because you make it complicated. Tommy leaned forward. He loves you too, you know. He hasn't said that. He doesn't need to say it. It's obvious. Lucy sighed. Since when did you become an expert on love? Since I've been watching you two make googly eyes at each other for weeks. Tommy's expression turned serious. Don't push him away, Luce. Not because of me and not because you're scared. When did you get so wise? Cancer, Tommy said with a shrug, makes you think about what's important. Elliot's meeting was with Marcus Jenkins at the Grayson Enterprises headquarters. He had been neglecting work lately, and the Henderson deal had nearly fallen through before Elliot personally stepped in to salvage it. You've been distracted, Marcus said bluntly, as they sat in Elliot's office. The board is starting to notice. The Henderson deal is back on track. What else is there to complain about? It's not just the deal, it's your focus, your priorities. You've missed 3 board meetings in the past month. You delegated the Shanghai hotel negotiations to junior executives. And now I hear you're talking about building a hospital. Elliot leaned back in his chair. What's your point, Marcus? My point is that ever since you met this girl, her name is Lucy. Fine. Ever since you met Lucy, you've been a different person, and while I'm all for personal growth, the company is suffering. The company is doing better than ever, for now. But if you keep putting your personal life ahead of business, that won't last. Elliot studied his CFO. They had worked together for years, built the company from nothing. Marcus had always been the pragmatic one, focused solely on the bottom line. Maybe it's time for a change, Elliot said slowly. A new direction for the company. Marcus frowned. What kind of change? More focus on projects that benefit the community. Affordable housing, medical facilities, educational centers. Those don't generate the kind of returns our shareholders expect. They generate different kinds of returns, more meaningful ones. Marcus stared at him in disbelief. This is because of her, isn't it? She's filling your head with these ideas. Lucy has nothing to do with this. She's shown me what's really important, that's all. Elliot, listen to yourself. You're talking about throwing away everything we've built because of some waitress with a sob story. Anger flashed in Elliot's eyes. Don't talk about her like that. Marcus held up his hands. I'm just concerned about you, about the company, about everything we've worked for. I appreciate your concern, but it's misplaced. I know exactly what I'm doing. Elliot stood, signaling the end of the conversation. Now, if there's nothing else, I need to prepare for my meeting with the architects for the Henderson project. After Marcus left, Elliot sat at his desk, thinking about what his CFO had said. Was he changing? Yes, he couldn't deny that. But was it for the worse? For the first time in years, he felt truly alive. He cared about something, someone, more than he cared about business deals and profit margins, and it felt right. His phone buzzed with a text from Lucy. Tommy's asking when you'll be back. He says he's beating your high score in the meantime, Elliot. Smiled, typing a reply. Tell him to enjoy it while it lasts. I'll be there in 2 hours. As he set his phone down, his assistant buzzed him. Mr. Grayson, there's a Victoria Rothwell here to see you. She says it's important. Elliot frowned. He hadn't seen Victoria in weeks, not since before he met Lucy. As the daughter of his biggest investor, she was someone he couldn't simply turn away. Send her in. Victoria Rothwell swept into his office like a force of nature, beautiful, polished, and completely aware of her own power. In her designer dress and perfect makeup, she was the embodiment of the world Elliot came from. "Elliot, darling," she said, air-kissing his cheek. "It's been ages." "Victoria, this is a surprise." "Is it? I thought we were overdue for a catch-up." She settled gracefully into the chair Marcus had vacated. "I've been hearing the most interesting rumors about you." "Have you?" "Mm-hmm. Something about a waitress and a sick brother. It all sounds very charitable of you." Elliot's face hardened. "Lucy and Tommy are not up for discussion." "Oh, touchy." Victoria smiled, a predatory gleam in her eye. "So it's serious then?" "My personal life is none of your business. But it affects my business, Elliot. My father has invested millions in Grayson Enterprises. If the CEO is having some kind of midlife crisis— I'm 39, Victoria, hardly midlife. You know what I mean." She leaned forward. "People are talking, Elliot, wondering if you've lost your edge, if you're still the ruthless businessman they invested in. Maybe I never was that person. Maybe that was just what people wanted to see," Victoria laughed. "Please, I've known you for years. You don't get to where you are by being soft. People change because of love." She said the word with such contempt that Elliot felt a surge of anger. "You wouldn't understand. Try me." Victoria stood, moving closer to him. "What does she have that I don't? Besides a hard luck story and a blue-collar background that makes you feel like a hero." "She's real," Elliot said simply. "She sees me, not my money, not my power, just me." How adorably naive. Victoria trailed a manicured finger along his desk. "And do you really think she'd give you a second glance if you weren't paying her? Brother's medical bills. If you weren't showering her with gifts and attention— You don't know her, I know her type." Victoria's voice hardened. "She's using you, Elliot, playing on your guilt, your loneliness, and when she's gotten everything she can from you, she'll move on. You need to leave, now." Victoria shrugged, unfazed by his anger. "Fine, but before I go, you might want to see this." She reached into her designer handbag and pulled out a thick envelope. "Just to ensure you're making an informed decision about your relationship." She placed the envelope on his desk, then walked to the door. "Call me when you come to your senses, darling. I'll be waiting." After she left, Elliot stared at the envelope for a long moment. Then, with a decisive movement, he swept it into the trash without opening it. Whatever game Victoria was playing, he wanted no part of it. That evening, as promised, Elliot returned to the hospital with the video game Tommy had requested. He found both Carter siblings in good spirits, with Tommy sitting up in bed, a healthy color returning to his cheeks. "You look better," Elliot said, handing over the game. "I feel better. Dr. Chen says if my blood work continues to improve, we can reschedule the transplant for next week." "That's fantastic news." Lucy, who had been arranging flowers by the window, came over to hug Elliot. "How was your meeting?" "Fine, nothing important." He decided not to mention Victoria's visit. It would only worry Lucy unnecessarily. As Tommy eagerly opened his new game, Elliot pulled Lucy aside. "Can we talk? In private?" She nodded, concerned. By his serious tone, they stepped into the hallway, finding a quiet corner near the nurse's station. "Is everything okay?" Lucy asked. "Better than okay." Elliot took both her hands in his. "I've been thinking about what you said the other night, about being afraid of falling in love with me." Lucy's heart began to race. "Elliot, I need you to know something. I'm already in love with you." His eyes held hers, sincere and vulnerable. "I think I have been since that first night at the pier." Lucy felt tears spring to her eyes. "You can't mean that." "I do, and I understand if you're not there yet, if you're still scared, but I needed you to know how I feel." "Elliot, Before she could finish, a commotion at the end of the hallway caught their attention. A woman was arguing loudly with a nurse, demanding to see someone. "I need to speak with Lucy Carter immediately. It's urgent." Lucy froze as she recognized the voice. "That's my boss from the diner." They turned to see Doris, the diner manager, spot them and hurry over, her face flushed with agitation. "Lucy, thank God I found you. I've been trying to call you all day." "My phone's been off. What's wrong?" Doris glanced suspiciously at Elliot before continuing. "A woman came to the diner this morning, asking all sorts of questions about you. When I wouldn't tell her anything, she left this." She thrust an envelope into Lucy's hands. "She said to make sure you got it. Said it was about your arrangement with some rich guy." Lucy's blood ran cold as she opened the envelope. Inside were photos of her and Elliot at the pier that first night, of him handing her the envelope of money, of them outside her apartment building, and with the photos a printout of a bank transfer, $10,000 from Elliot Grayson to Lucy Carter, dated the night they met. "What is this?" she whispered. "Lucy, I can explain," Elliot began. She looked up at him, her eyes filling with hurt and betrayal. "You paid me. That first night. It wasn't about Tommy's medical bills at all. You paid me for my company." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like, Elliot?" She held up the photos. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like everything between us started with a transaction, like I was something you bought." "Lucy, please." But she was already backing away, clutching the envelope to her chest. "I need to think. I can't do this right now." As she turned and hurried back to Tommy's room, Elliot stood frozen in the hallway, watching everything they had built together crumble in an instant. And somewhere across town, Victoria Rothwell smiled in satisfaction as she received a text message. "Package delivered." She got the photos. Lucy sat beside Tommy's hospital bed, her mind racing with confusion and hurt. She had tucked the envelope with the photos under her jacket, not wanting her brother to see her distress. Tommy was finally improving. The last thing he needed was to worry about her. "Where's Elliot?" Tommy asked, looking up from his game. "I thought he was right behind you." "He had to take a call," Lucy lied, forcing a smile. "Business stuff. Is everything okay? You look upset." "I'm fine, just tired." She stood up, needing a moment alone. "I'm going to get some coffee. Do you need anything?" Tommy shook his head, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. "You'd tell me if something was wrong, right?" "Of course." Another lie. She was getting good at those. "I'll be right back." In the corridor, Lucy avoided the area where she'd left Elliot. She couldn't face him yet, couldn't process the storm of emotions swirling inside her. She found her way to a small waiting room at the end of the hall, mercifully empty at this hour. Sitting in the corner, she took out the envelope again, forcing herself to look at the evidence. The photos were clear. Elliot handing her money. That first night, the bank transfer confirmation. Everything had started with a payment, a business arrangement. Had it all been a lie? The connection she thought they'd shared, the way he looked at her, the moments that had felt so real. Lucy. She looked up, startled to find Elliot standing in the doorway. His face was drawn with concern. "Please, just hear me out," he said, taking a tentative step into the room. "What is there to say? The photos speak for themselves. They show what happened, but not why it happened." He moved closer, sitting in a chair across from her. "Yes, I paid you that night. I was lonely, desperate for real conversation. It was impulsive and probably inappropriate, but it wasn't what these photos make it look like." "Then what was it, Elliot? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you bought my time, my attention." She swallowed hard. "Like I was a service you paid for. Is that really what you think, after everything we've shared these past weeks?" Lucy looked away. "I don't know what to think anymore. I feel like such a fool." "You're not a fool." Elliot leaned forward, his voice urgent. "Lucy, that night at the pier, that was real. Everything since has been real. The money was just... It was a stupid, clumsy way for me to help you, to create a connection." "By paying me? Like a transaction?" "I made a mistake. I didn't know how else to approach you, how to help without seeming like I was offering charity." He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "I've spent my whole life using money to solve problems. It's the only way I knew." "And then what? You felt guilty, so you decided to help with Tommy's medical bills?" "No." His voice was firm. "I helped with Tommy's treatment because I care about him, because I care about you." The money has nothing to do with how I feel. Lucy wanted to believe. Part of her did, but the hurt was too fresh, the doubt too strong. Who sent these photos? She asked. Elliot hesitated. I think it was Victoria Rothwell. She's the daughter of one of my investors. She has certain expectations about our relationship. Your girlfriend? No, never. But she'd like to be. Elliot sighed. She came to my office today, tried to warn me away from you. She left an envelope, but I threw it away without looking. I should have known she wouldn't give up so easily. Why would she do this? Because she's threatened by you, by what we have. He reached for Lucy's hand, but she pulled away. Lucy, please, don't let her come between us. It's not about her. Elliot, it's about trust. How can I trust what we have when it started with a lie? Before he could answer, Lucy's phone rang. It was Tommy's nurse. Ms. Carter, you need to come back to Tommy's room. Dr. Chen wants to speak with you both. Dr. Chen was waiting outside Tommy's room, her expression carefully neutral. Tommy was visible through the window playing his game, oblivious to the tension. Is everything okay? Lucy asked, her personal problems momentarily forgotten. Tommy's latest blood. Work came back. The infection is completely cleared. Dr. Chen smiled. We're ready to schedule the transplant for Monday morning. Relief washed over Lucy. That's wonderful news. There's more, Dr. Chen continued. We've been reviewing Tommy's case, and given his age and overall health, he's an excellent candidate for a new protocol we've been developing. It would reduce his recovery time significantly and improve his long-term outcomes. That sounds perfect, Lucy said. What's the catch? The protocol is still in the trial phase. Insurance won't cover it, and it's quite expensive. Of course. Lucy felt her heart sink. How expensive? Approximately $200,000. Lucy closed her eyes briefly. Even with Elliot's help, that was an impossible sum. I'll cover it, Elliot said immediately. Lucy turned to him, conflict evident in her eyes. Part of her wanted to refuse his help, to protect her pride and independence. But this was Tommy's life, his future. Thank you, she said quietly. Dr. Chen looked between them, sensing the tension. I'll give you some time to discuss this. We don't need a decision until tomorrow. After she left, Lucy and Elliot stood in awkward silence. Lucy, Elliot began. I need to tell Tommy the good news, she interrupted. He should be part of this decision. Elliot nodded. Of course, I'll wait out here. Inside the room, Tommy whooped with joy when Lucy told him about the transplant schedule. Monday, that's awesome. And what about this new protocol Dr. Chen mentioned? You heard that? Hospital walls are thin. Tommy grinned. So, when do we start? Lucy sat on the edge of his bed. It's not that simple, Tommy. The protocol is experimental. Insurance won't cover it. But Elliot will, right? Tommy looked past her to the window, where Elliot was visible in the corridor. That's what that whole awkward conversation out there was about. Yes, he's offered to pay, but what? This is my best chance, Luce. Dr. Chen said so. Lucy sighed. I know. It's just, is something going on between you two? Where is he anyway? Why isn't he in here celebrating with us? Lucy hesitated, unsure how much to share. We had a disagreement. About the money. Lucy, don't be stupid. If he wants to help, let him help. It's more complicated than that. Tommy studied his sister's face. You're in love with him, and you're scared. Tommy, no, listen to me. Tommy sat up straighter, suddenly looking older than his 17 years. I see how he looks at you, how you look at him. Whatever this disagreement is about, it can be fixed. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. Lucy took a deep breath, deciding Tommy deserved the truth. That first night, when I met Elliot, he paid me to talk to him. $10,000 just to spend a few hours keeping him company. Tommy's eyes widened. Whoa, that's actually kind of sweet in a weird rich guy way. Sweet, Tommy, he paid me, like I was something he could buy. Or like he was desperate for connection and didn't know how else to make it happen. Tommy shook his head. You've been taking care of me for so long, you've forgotten how to let someone take care of you. This isn't about that, isn't it? Tommy took her hand. Luce, I've spent the last year facing the possibility that I might die. It gives you perspective. And from my perspective, you're about to throw away something amazing because you're too proud and too scared to accept it. Lucy felt tears form in her eyes. When did you get so wise? Cancer, remember? Tommy smiled. Now go fix things with Elliot. Tell him I want the fancy new protocol. And tell him... Tommy hesitated. Tell him I said thank you for everything. Out. In the corridor, Elliot was on the phone, his back to Tommy's room. Lucy approached slowly, hearing the end of his conversation. I don't care what it costs, make it happen. He hung up and turned, surprised to find Lucy standing there. Tommy wants the new protocol, she said, and he says thank you. Relief crossed Elliot's face. I'm glad Dr. Chen says it could make a huge difference in his recovery. Elliot, about... Before, you don't need to say anything. I understand why you're upset. The photos, the way Victoria presented it, it looked bad. Yes, it did. Lucy took a deep breath. But maybe I overreacted. The truth is, I've been looking for reasons to push you away since the beginning. Why? Because I'm terrified. She looked up at him, her eyes vulnerable. Terrified of depending on you, terrified of loving you and losing you, terrified that one day you'll wake up and realize that a waitress with a GED and a mountain of medical debt isn't what you really want. Elliot stepped closer, his voice soft but intense. Lucy, I grew up in a world where everything was a transaction, where relationships were built on what people could do for each other. Meeting you, it changed everything. You saw me, not my money, not my power, just me. And you saw me too, Lucy admitted. Not just as Tommy's sister or a waitress, as a person with dreams and fears and, Elliot prompted, hope in his eyes. And a heart that's falling in love with you, she whispered. Elliot pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. I love you, Lucy Carter, and I'm not going anywhere. She rested her head against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. I love you too. As they stood there, a slow clapping sound made them turn. Tommy was watching from his doorway, a wide grin on his face. Finally, he exclaimed. I was starting to think I'd need another medical emergency to get you two to admit. Your feelings. Lucy laughed through her tears. Get back in bed, you menace. Only if Elliot promises to teach me how to drive his fancy car when I get out of here. Deal, Elliot said, his arm still around Lucy's waist. And maybe you could show us this penthouse Lucy's been talking about. She said the bathtub is bigger than our entire bathroom. Tommy, Lucy blushed. Elliot laughed. The penthouse is all yours to explore once you're better, both of you. As Tommy returned to his room, satisfied with this promise, a movement at the end of the corridor caught Lucy's attention. A tall, elegantly dressed woman was watching them, her expression a mixture of disbelief and anger. Is that her? Lucy asked quietly. Victoria? Elliot followed her gaze. Yes, that's her. She doesn't look happy. She sent those photos to hurt you, to drive us apart. Elliot's arm tightened around Lucy. But she failed. For Victoria, seeing that she had been noticed, straightened her shoulders and approached them, her heels clicking on the hospital floor. Elliot, she said coolly, I see you're still playing the hero to your charity case. Lucy felt Elliot tense beside her, but she squeezed his hand, stepping forward herself. Ms. Rothwell, I presume? I want to thank you for the photos you sent. They forced us to have an important conversation about honesty and trust. Victoria's perfect eyebrows rose, in surprise. Excuse me? The photos, the bank statement, it was all very thorough. Lucy smiled. But you should know that real relationships can survive honesty, even difficult truths. You think this is a real relationship? Victoria laughed. He'll tire of you once the novelty wears off. Men like Elliot always do. You don't know me at all, Elliot said quietly. If you did, you'd know that what I feel for Lucy is more real than anything I've ever felt. Victoria's composure cracked slightly. Your father will pull his investment when he hears about this. The board will question your judgment. Let them, Elliot said simply. Some things are worth more than business deals and investments. Victoria looked between them, recognizing defeat in Elliot's steady gaze. "You'll regret this," she said to Lucy, "when the fairy tale ends and you're back waiting tables." "Maybe," Lucy conceded, "but I'd rather take that chance than wonder what might have been." With nothing left to say, Victoria turned and walked away, her expensive perfume lingering in the air. "So that's your world," Lucy said, watching her go. "A small, shallow part of it," Elliot agreed, "one I'm increasingly happy to leave behind." The following Monday, Tommy underwent his bone marrow transplant using Dr. Chen's experimental protocol. The procedure went smoothly, and his recovery began more quickly than anyone had expected. 2 weeks later, he was well enough to be discharged from the hospital. As Elliot helped load Tommy's belongings into his car, Lucy stood in the hospital entrance, taking a moment to absorb the reality that they were actually leaving, that Tommy was going to be okay. "Ready to go home?" Dr. Chen asked, joining her. "More than ready," Lucy smiled. "I can't thank you enough for everything you've done. Thank Elliot. Without his support, we couldn't have used the new protocol." Dr. Chen looked over at Elliot, who was helping Tommy into the passenger seat of his car. "He's a good man." "Yes, he is. And the pediatric center he's planning to fund, it will help thousands of children like Tommy." Lucy smiled. Tommy's suggestion had become a real project, one of several community-focused initiatives Elliot had begun developing in recent weeks. He was changing, or perhaps just rediscovering a part of himself that had been buried under years of business, deals and profit margins. "There's one more thing," Dr. Chen said, handing Lucy an envelope. "The hospital foundation is offering you a scholarship, full tuition for nursing school if you're interested." Lucy stared at the envelope in shock. "How? Why? It's not from Elliot, if that's what you're wondering. It's from the foundation. We have a program for family caregivers who show exceptional aptitude. Several of the nurses spoke very highly of how you cared for Tommy. I don't know what to say. Say yes. The world needs more nurses like you would be." Tears filled Lucy's eyes. The dream she had put aside years ago to get her nursing degree suddenly seemed possible again. "Thank you," she whispered. "Lucy," Tommy called from the car. "Are we going or what?" she laughed, tucking the envelope into her bag. "Coming. Nursing so home sweet home," Lucy said as she unlocked the door to their apartment. It felt strange to be back after so many weeks at the hospital. Tommy looked around with a smile. "It's good to be home." Elliot set down Tommy's bags. "You're sure you don't want to stay at my place? There's more room and it would be easier for Dr. Chen to make house calls." It was a discussion they'd had several times. Elliot had offered his penthouse for Tommy's recovery, but Lucy had been hesitant. "We'll be fine here," she insisted. "But thank you," Tommy rolled his eyes. "Don't mind my stubborn sister, she's still getting used to accepting help." "I understand," Elliot said, though Lucy could see the disappointment in his eyes. As she helped Tommy get settled in his room, Elliot received a phone call. She could hear him speaking in low tones from the living room. "Everything okay?" she asked when she returned. "That was Marcus. There's an emergency board meeting tomorrow. Victoria's father is threatening to pull his investment." "Because of me?" "Because of me," Elliot corrected her. "Because I'm changing the direction of the company, focusing more on community development projects than luxury properties." "And he doesn't approve?" "He's more concerned with profit margins than social impact," Elliot shrugged. "But I've been preparing for this. I have other investors lined up, people who share my new vision." Lucy sat beside him on the couch. "I'm sorry I'm causing problems for your business." "You're not causing anything. You're inspiring me to be better." He took her hand. "The company will be fine. Different, but fine." "I got some news today, too," Lucy said. "The hospital offered me a scholarship for nursing school." Elliot's face lit up. "Lucy, that's wonderful. Are you going to accept?" "I think so. Yes." She smiled, feeling a flutter of excitement. "It feels like the right time. With Tommy getting better and you—" She hesitated. "And me. And you being so supportive, making me believe I can do this." Elliot kissed her softly. "You can do anything, Lucy Carter. I've believed that since the moment we met." The sound of a throat clearing made them look up. Tommy stood in the doorway of his room, a sly grin on his face. "Don't mind me," he said. Just enjoying the show." Lucy threw a cushion at him. "Shouldn't you be resting?" "I've been resting for weeks. Now I'm hungry. What's for dinner?" Elliot stood up. "How about I order in? Whatever you want." "Pizza," Tommy said immediately. "With everything on it." "Done." Elliot pulled out his phone to make the call. As Lucy watched him, chatting easily with Tommy about toppings and sides, she marveled at how seamlessly he had fit into their lives. How natural it felt to have him. Here in their small apartment, maybe it was time to stop resisting the changes he had brought into their world. In the weeks that followed, Tommy's strength returned steadily. Lucy began her prerequisite courses for nursing school, balancing study with her reduced shifts at the diner. And Elliot navigated the changes at Grayson Enterprises, losing some investors, but gaining others who were excited about his new vision. Victoria's attempts to damage Elliot's reputation had backfired. Far from being viewed as unstable, his pivot toward socially responsible development had been praised in the business press as visionary and forward-thinking. One evening, as Lucy was helping Tommy with his physical therapy exercises in their living room, Elliot arrived with dinner and an unusually serious expression. "Is everything okay?" Lucy asked as they sat down to eat. "Everything's fine. But I wanted to talk to you both about something." He looked at Tommy. "You too, buddy. Your opinion matters here." Tommy perked up. "Are we going on vacation? Because I've been thinking about Hawaii." Elliot laughed. "Not quite. It's about where you're living." Lucy tensed. "Elliot, we've talked about this. We're fine here. Just hear me out. I'm not suggesting my penthouse again." He took a deep breath. "I bought a house in a good school district, close to the hospital and the university where you'll be studying nursing." "You bought a house?" Lucy repeated. "It has 4 bedrooms, a big backyard, and it's fully accessible for when Tommy has his low-energy days. There's a study where you can do your schoolwork, and the kitchen is amazing." "Sounds expensive," Lucy said cautiously. "It wasn't, actually. It needs some work. That's why I got it for a good price. But it has potential. A lot of potential." Tommy was grinning. "A yard? Like with grass and stuff?" "Grass, trees, even a space where we could put a basketball hoop once you're cleared for sports." "We?" Lucy asked. Elliot took her hand. "That's the other part of what I wanted to talk about." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I know this might seem fast, but when you know, you know." Lucy's heart began to race as he opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant diamond ring. "Lucy Carter, I love you. I love the way you care for Tommy, the way you stand up for yourself, the way you've made me a better man." Elliot's voice was steady, his eyes never leaving hers. "I want to build a life with you, both of you. Will you marry me?" Lucy looked from the ring to Elliot's hopeful face to Tommy, who was nodding enthusiastically. "Say yes, Luce," Tommy urged. "Come on." "This is a big step," she said, her voice shaking. "We've only known each other a few months. And in those months, we've faced more together than most couples face in years," Elliot countered. "I know what I want, Lucy. I want you." "But what? About your world? Your business associates? Your social circle? They're not as important as you and Tommy, not even close." Elliot squeezed her hand. "Besides, the people who matter have embraced the changes in my life. The rest can either adapt or keep their distance." Tommy leaned forward. "Lucy, do you love him?" "Yes," she answered without hesitation. "And does he make you happy?" "Yes." "Then, what's the problem? Say yes to the man, for crying out loud." Lucy laughed, tears of joy filling her eyes. "Yes," she said softly, then more firmly. "Yes, Elliot, I'll marry you." As Elliot slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a kiss, Tommy whooped with delight. "Does this mean I get my own room in the new house?" he asked. "Because I've been sharing a wall with Lucy for years, and let me tell you, she snores." "I do not," Lucy protested, laughing through her tears. "You'll each have your own room," Elliot promised, "though I hope Lucy will be sharing mine." "Gross," Tommy said, but he was smiling. "When can we see this house?" "How about tomorrow, if you're feeling up to it?" "Are you kidding? Wild horses couldn't keep me away." As they finished dinner, making plans for the move and talking about the future, Lucy looked at her small family, her brother, alive and recovering, and Elliot, the man who had changed everything with a simple request for conversation on a rainy night. Who would have thought that what began as a transaction could blossom into something so real, so precious? "What are you thinking about?" Elliot asked, catching her thoughtful expression. "I'm thinking about the night we met, how everything has changed since then." "For the better?" Lucy smiled, looking at the ring on her finger. "Definitely for the better." Namsu 1 year later. The backyard of the renovated craftsman house was transformed for the occasion. White chairs arranged in neat rows, an arch of flowers at the front, strings of lights hanging from the trees that would twinkle as evening approached. In what was once the guest room, now converted into a bridal suite, Lucy stood in her wedding dress, simple, elegant, perfectly her. Her hair was styled in soft waves, a few fresh flowers woven through it. "You look beautiful," Tommy said from the doorway. At 18, he stood tall and strong, his health fully restored, his future bright. He wore a suit, a bow tie, and a wide grin. "Elliot's going to pass out when he sees you." "Don't you dare let him pass out," Lucy laughed. "I need him conscious for the vows." A knock at the door announced Dr. Chen's arrival. She had become a friend over the past year, mentoring Lucy through her first semesters of nursing school. "The guests are all seated," she reported, "and the groom is nervously pacing by the altar." "Is his family behaving?" Lucy asked. Elliot's extended family had been slow to warm to her, though they had softened considerably when they saw how happy she made him. His mother is dabbing her eyes already, and his uncle is telling anyone who'll listen about how he always knew Elliot would find the right girl eventually. Dr. Chen smiled. "They're fine, but Victoria Rothwell's mother is sitting there with a face like she's sucking lemons." "Victoria actually came?" Tommy asked, surprised. "Apparently," her father insisted. "Something about business relationships." Lucy nodded. After the initial conflict, Victoria's father had eventually decided not to pull his investment from Grayson Enterprises. The company's community development projects had proven surprisingly profitable, attracting positive publicity and new investors. "It doesn't matter who's here," Lucy said. "All that matters is that by the end of today, I'll be Mrs. Grayson." "Actually," Tommy corrected her, "you'll be Dr. Carter Grayson eventually, once you finish med school." Lucy's plans had evolved over the year. With Elliot's encouragement and Tommy's recovery, she had set her sights beyond nursing to medical school. Her prerequisites were going well, her confidence growing with each passing semester. "One step at a time," she laughed. "Wedding first, medical career second." The music began, signaling it was time. Tommy offered his arm to his sister. "Ready to marry your billionaire?" "He's not a billionaire," Lucy corrected him automatically. "At least not yet. Give him time. And with you by his side, imagine what he'll accomplish." As Lucy took her brother's arm and prepared to walk down the aisle to where Elliot waited, she reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From a rainy night at a diner to this perfect day, surrounded by friends and family. What had started as a simple transaction, a price on company, on conversation, had transformed into something priceless: love, family, a future brighter than she could have imagined. Elliot's face when he saw her was everything she had hoped for: love, awe, absolute certainty. As she reached him at the Kelter, he took her hands in his. "You are so beautiful," he whispered. "So are you," she whispered back. As the minister began the ceremony, Lucy felt a sense of perfect rightness. This was where she belonged, beside Elliot, with Tommy beaming proudly as their best man, building a life together that would touch countless others through their work, their love, their example. Some things, she had learned, couldn't be bought. True connection, family, love. These were the priceless gifts they had given each other, and as they spoke their vows beneath the arch of flowers, with the afternoon sun casting a golden glow over their guests, Lucy knew one thing with absolute certainty: the price on love, it was beyond measure. The end.